smartest guy in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Tulis.
This is David Tulis holding up my cup from the morning. Attack low. Here's a center in 21st century America has forgotten at the door of a radio station, and so we are better technologically and materially than we ever have been. No one would say they want to live in an earlier age. No one would ever say that, and that is because of the work of the gospel in society and the rise of technology and capital, all of which are fruits of Christianity, and so things are looking up greatly. Overall looking up greatly, though we have some problems to deal with, such as the coming market collapse and the rise of a dark tyranny. Even in Hamilton County schools, there was the coming militarization of school, as its original theory has been forgotten, and we have schools now in Birmingham, there was a case, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, where students were gassed. You have gassings of students. You have, and the Southern Poverty Law Center in 2006, 2014 filed a class action case that in which 199 students had been sprayed by a combination of pepper spray and a tear gas agent called Freeze Plus P. Cops know all about that, right? This is for your safety. You have students being sprayed, causing severe pain, skin irritation, spray that many of those 199 found affected their breathing and their ability to see. All black, okay, all African American students subjected to corralling and management tools. And then the officers who spray people in public school in many times have done nothing to assist those who have been injured, right? It is an injury to be gassed. And in this lawsuit, there was the point made that the officer made no effort to take the clothing, the poisoned clothing off of the student who was being held in custody to await arraignment. There is in the school sector this militarization process. There are school districts that have armed camps, that have armed troops to defend the institution, which of course continues to have the esteem of the public members who think that somehow that without public school that their children will remain in ignorance. Without public school and the public school teacher, the very, very fine teacher that everyone has, that child will be dismal, will not be employable, will not know anything, will care nothing about the larger world, and will simply dry up or go on the dole. Well, it's possible that going into school is what makes people that way, not keeping them out. So this evening at 5:30 there'll be a school board meeting that will discuss the security situation, and we can be sure that the answers are not the free market. Believe me, the answers, the temptation is always to draw not toward liberty, toward the free market, toward private solutions, to the mass system that we have of vulnerable, of soft targets. But we're making schools to be soft targets to people who think like they're supposed to, right? Mass gunmen who come into schools and kill people are thinking like they've been trained to. Think that the schooling today teaches people that kind of action is courageous and bold. It is self-authenticating often, and so since schools have no God, of course, there is no God of the Bible in public school by definition. Thanks to the Supreme Court rulings that there has to be a so-called separation of church and state, schools teach a materialist, evolutionary, ultimately a morally chaotic system. And even at its very best, the very best that humanism can offer in the way of moral structure is the decision-making model, which is taught at Girls Inc., Boys Inc., Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They all teach the same ethic, and that is the decision-making model, which is totally pragmatic. It's just totally pragmatic. There's no, well, you've heard about it, right? In the decision-making model, what the young person is trained to do is just to think of the consequences of your actions. That's it. Just think that if you have sex with that young boy in the 8th grade class, who the door of which is across the hall from yours, that if you have sex with that boy, that you may get pregnant. And maybe you don't want to be pregnant. Maybe you might get a venereal disease, an STD. You don't want that, do you? You don't want to have to be having surgery, medication, and so on for your whole life, do you? Those are consequences of your decision. So you need to make a choice. You need to have a choice that favors you. And you, the 8th grade girl in the 3rd row there, fourth desk back. You need to be thinking about yourself. That's called the decision-making model, and that's all that public schools have to offer. Certain things are good. Virtue is good. Respect is good. Caring for the people, those are all good things. But there's not an exterior system of law and government. There's not an exterior standard. It's kind of implied, you could say, but it's all borrowing from Christianity, borrowing from the golden rule, if you will. Without making any explicit reference, because it's supposed to be ascetic. It's supposed to be in Hamilton County School. It's supposed to be religiously neutral. There may be a God. We may revere him, and we may have in kindergartens in Tennessee. We may have if the House bill that was passed goes into law at the hand of Governor Bill Haslam, we'll have "In God We Trust" in a obvious place, a public place in the kindergartens of Tennessee. I can't find my printout from. Oh, here it is. Mandate for display of "In God We Trust" in TN schools sent to governor. It's an 81-8 vote with little debate, according to Tom Humphrey, who sent me this email. And it is sent Monday night that it be prominently displayed in all kindergarten. Hold on, not just kindergarten, but all through kindergarten through 12th grade in God We Trust. So there are these sort of honorific references to God. But Tennessee General Assembly and people at the top, right, our leaders, they're called, they won't make anything substantial out of the premise of "In God We Trust," because in fact we don't trust in God, and Hamilton County certainly doesn't, and the mayor of the county, Jim Coppinger, doesn't in practice and policy. Okay, he may personally, but in practice and policy, which is separate, right, separate from Christian belief. He really can't. And so we have this reassuring vote from the General Assembly about having these words prominently in a hallway when you come into a public school, where the shooter will zip past this motto. It won't slow him down at all. And so this has been sent to Governor Haslam for a signature. It is said that trusting God is a cornerstone of our freedom, and that this bill wants the idea of trusting in God to be part of the children's schooling. But we don't trust in God, and by policy we don't, and we can't. It's impossible for the public school system to believe in God or anybody in it in an official capacity, of course, to believe in God and to trust in God. That is simply not tenable in Hamilton County. Even though Rhonda Thurman is a practicing Christian, and there are others on the board who are, and even though on the Hamilton County Commission there are practicing Christians, by policy and by decisions made long ago by these bodies and submissions made by these bodies to higher authority, that's simply not possible. And so we have the gunman waiting, and we have the factory school open every day, the soft target that the Sheriff Jim Hammond feels it is his duty to protect, and for which he is clamoring for $4 million to have an SRO in every school. Right now, he has deputies in 29, more than 29 deputies, probably in the 30s, in these public factory schools in the county. Can they be protected? Well, no, they can't be protected. The only way to protect them is to turn each one into a supermax, and that can't be accomplished. And I don't think people really want that. But the idea of security is one that is in everyone's mind, and that is the focus of everyone's thoughts. Everyone's thinking that there is no alternative, of course, than to have these soft targets. There is no decentralization in view. There is no market solution in view. You asked me what my market solution is. Well, let me ask you, what would you say is the solution? What would you say? 800-8949, 800-8949. David Tulis, the editor at yournews.com, yournews.com here in Chattanooga, the 92.7 multimedia platform, the lifestyle station, live on Facebook, live on YouTube, Nooga Radio. You got that, Nooga Radio. Now, the point it keeps eluding me, but I need to press on to it. The left has stolen from Christendom and stolen from conservatives many of their ideas. The anti-policing idea, that's not an idea original with the left. The left, the radical socialists, are the people who gave us policing in the first place from Robespierre's time in the French Revolution. The idea of a free borders, open border policy, which would relieve many problems and would help end the police state. That doesn't come from the conservative argument. That is actually an argument from the left. The unions, the labor unions, and the socialists who want state control of everything. It is not inherently a conservative idea, though Donald Trump pretends that it is. He pretends that it is. The idea of the sanctuary city is not an idea of the left either. And yet conservatives, Republicans, many homeschoolers, many Christian people here in our town, Chattanooga and Hamilton County, and wonderful points around it, or around them, would hold to the idea that we have to have border controls, and there's no way a city can defy the federal government. So here we have people who want to defy the federal government at many points elsewhere, and who talk about states' rights, who talk about the idea of intervention that I do, of interposition, which is an idea that I've written about for a long time. And they don't like that idea suddenly where a city can say we're a sanctuary for immigrants and strangers and aliens. Well, they should in fact applaud that idea. And here I am, David Tulis, the conservative, right? The man from the right-wing talk radio station, right? We have Alex Jones on our wonderful platform. If you talk about right-wing, talk about Alex Jones, who's right on many things, by the way, on his analysis of the deep state. He's right about many things, though sometimes I think he and his staff talk before they have all the facts. That is a problem that many people have, left and right. But anyway, we're the right-wing station, and here I am, the classical liberal, on the morning show, the classical liberal at the right-wing station. So we have balance. We'll just admit that much. We have balance. But the idea of the sanctuary city is a deeply biblical idea, and it is deeply biblical because we already have it. We already are a sanctuary city in many points, as Gary North points out in a recent essay that came out in January at Lou Rockwell, or if not Lou Rockwell, for sure at GaryNorth.com, about the sanctuary city concept. It belongs to Christianity, and it's because there's a local decision being made about what is right, and the local official is interposing himself between some victim, and an evil, wicked, malevolent higher power. In the immigration story, the higher power is Washington and ICE, right? The armed police of the Yankee force, and the innocent victims are family people with yellow skin, dark, oily hair, and they come from south of the border. They're immigrants, they're illegals, they're undocumented, soon to be Americans, right? Just like I hope every American can be as undocumented as they. They often have a higher legal status than we do. We held down like Gulliver in the first island, held down by hundreds of strings cast across him by the Lilliputians, hundreds of little strings in which we can't move any longer. And yet the undocumented Hispanic legally has a higher legal status than you, my listener. He does. He has a higher and richer heritage of liberty than you do. He may not know it. He may not know how to articulate it, but he does have it more than you, my listener. Think about that. Think how strange that is. He has a liberty he doesn't know a lot about and doesn't know how to defend. You have a reduced status in your liberties because you've entered into contract at many points with the savior state, with our national powers, with the good people, and you suffer a lower legal status. And so an independent city, a sanctuary city, a haven city is one that seeks self-government for itself as an independent culture, an independent organism, an independent municipal corporation, as Chattanooga is a municipal corporation. And we have the prospect in Chattanooga of being an independent city-state. It is something in the future. Dave Crockett, our leading statesman in Chattanooga, has thought about this a long time. And that's how he and I have become friends. He boasts of being taller than me, but I boast with success that I'm the leading Noogacentrist. He claims he is, but it's really me, Dr. Noogacentric, David Tulis, your host here. Now, the idea of the haven is this. Can we make it happen here? And is there a way in which we can make Chattanooga a sanctuary city, a haven city? Yes, there is. Now, on Tuesday at City Council, I had a 5-minute oration that explained to the City Council members, I think most of whom were there, how it is we can make Chattanooga a sanctuary city. I've approached Sheriff Hammond about it, and I'm waiting for some answers from the sheriff. I'm also waiting for some answers from his opponent in the Democratic side, Victor Miller, who has not responded to me and does not take phone calls very easily. So I'm not sure about Victor Miller being a serious candidate, but the sheriff is a serious candidate and the incumbent. I've also addressed the city council. And my brief oration Tuesday was to say that you have to insert a single question in the traffic and transportation arrest/seizure/stop protocol, a single sentence in the arrest procedures uttered by the cop. And you, with that question, will rescue and save from oppression thousands and thousands of people, Hispanic, Black, or should I say African-American, poor, and many people who are simply unable to get everything together to have their papers in order, right? Like in the Wehrmacht, you have to have your papers in order, or the Gestapo will take you in for questioning, right? That's what we have here. We have a Gestapo in Hamilton County. And that would be that your papers are out of order. Now, the problem I'm bringing to the attention is a matter of law, bringing to the attention of the city council in Chattanooga, a matter of law. And that is the over-enforcement, the overbroad enforcement of Title 55 in the Tennessee Code, annotated the Title 65 and the U.S. Code Title 49, all of which are the transportation or carrier statutes that control transportation. Now, I hope you've thought a little bit about this issue by tuning into my show. David Tulis here. And if you're just joining us, it is a sanctuary city proposal. We can make in Chattanooga a sanctuary city, a haven. And I want to tell you, I've got some important announcements coming up, and I really would like you to hear all of them and patronize all of our wonderful advertisers here on Nooga Radio. But on the other side, as you hear all my commercials and say, well, I want to have my services done here and there, according to David's suggestions in his advertising part of his program. On the other side of these important announcements, hope I can tell you a little bit about why I'm engaging in this effort. It is an effort of personal reconciliation between my race, which is white, Caucasian, Anglo-Saxon, and the race that belongs to our future mayor, Hanson Melvin, the future mayor of Chattanooga, who's an African-American, right? Between his race and my race, there is a work that I'm giving. I'm expending capital, a restitutionary effort to bring about a kind of redemption, a kind of salvation, a kind of rescue from an oppressive state white establishment legal regime using these parts of the Tennessee law and the federal law, and that would be the transportation statute. In a nutshell, what I'm proposing in my single sentence, described perhaps a bit too rapidly to the city council, is a question that will keep people who have their papers out of order from entering into the jail system, entering into the court system, to be victimized again, as they've been victimized, many of them, for much of their lives. And that would be a patriotic, constitution-minded, and yet very liberal policy of creating in Chattanooga a sanctuary city. And the enemy is not Washington. The enemy in this case is the white legal political establishment in Nashville, the governor's office and his highway patrol, the judiciary, and the General Assembly, which thinks nothing of this at all, has in fact entirely accepts the current system, the status quo, as if nothing were amiss, as if it were not oppressive, and I would say wicked. I would say ungodly and wicked. Wicked. And what can I, David Tulis, do to help ameliorate that situation? Now, join me in this wonderful adventure.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.